Do you want to talk about something top secret inside your meeting? Something confidential where you can ensure that no one other than the few people that are inside your meeting can have access to. Well, until recently, you couldn't set up these types of confidential meetings inside Teams. What we've always done in the past is we've gone to the people that are members of this confidential meeting and pulled them into a room and closed the door and closed the curtains and had our conversation. But now with everyone working remotely, it's important to have these types of conversations confidently using products like Teams meetings. Now, a couple of months ago, a feature came out under Teams Premium called End Encryption. And because Teams Premium has so many different features, this feature I feel kind of got lost, and the importance of it is critical for everyone to understand because it gives you that confidence that, hey, if I'm talking about a new patent or if I'm talking about a top secret project, I'm confident that this is a confidential meeting and no one other than the members inside the meeting can listen into the conversation, including Microsoft. I say that because there's a difference between the regular type of encryption that Microsoft Teams offers and this end-to-end encryption. You might be wondering, well, what is this encryption? I mean, I thought Microsoft Teams was already encrypted. And the answer is that yes, it's always been encrypted, but we've had encryption using technologies that allow encryption at rest, in transit, and using protocols like TLS and SRTP to encrypt the real-time media and the signaling traffic. But end-to-end encryption is different because it ensures that the traffic is encrypted at the sender's client and decrypted at the recipient's client. And no intermediary node, including Microsoft, has access to the decrypted traffic. What this means is that you end up losing features like call recording, captioning, transcriptions, PowerPoint Live, breakout rooms. All of these features you end up losing out on when you have an end-to-end encrypted meeting. But hey, that might be okay because if you're having these kind of confidential meetings, you don't want anyone to record the conversation anyways. And one other thing, we've actually had end-to-end encryption inside Teams from a calling perspective. About a year ago, I did a video on this, so if you're curious about it, check that out. But we haven't had it for Teams meetings. Now for up to 50 participants, you can enable end-to-end encryption. But that's not enough because if you want a super confidential meeting, then you're going to turn on features like watermarking your video, watermarking your content, and changing the lobby parameters so that only the people that are supposed to be in the meeting are allowed in. Now, it's a little bit too much to ask for your end users to figure out all these different features to turn on for meeting options. They might forget. But as an admin, I'll show you how you can set up a meeting template to create this type of a confidential meeting so that end users can simply select confidential meeting and join and rest assured that it's confidential. Now, what's really cool about this is that you can actually couple these meeting parameters with your sensitivity labels for an additional level of security. One other thing before we jump into this. I mentioned that this is part of Teams Premium. And if you're not familiar with Teams Premium, understand that it's an add-on license to your existing E3 or your E5. Microsoft has already done a fantastic job with their marketing videos and blogs to explain what Teams Premium is. But in a nutshell, I'll tell you that it encompasses a lot of wonderful features. This is just one of them. But there are things like advanced webinars or meeting recap that make it even more amazing. So without further ado, let me jump into how do you experience this from an end user perspective and how do you set this up as an admin perspective. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to get started from an admin perspective. So log into your Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And remember, the key to all of this is the Teams Premium license. So let's first make sure we even have the license inside our tenant. So if you want to first go to billing and then go to purchase services, you can look for Teams Premium here. So you can click on the search icon on the right hand side and then type in Teams Premium. And as it searches for it, just scroll down a little bit. What I did in my own tenant is this is the Teams Premium introductory pricing. You can click on details, and I actually have a trial set up. So you can get a trial so you can test it out, or you can purchase it for the quantity that you want. And so I already have it in my tenant, but this is how you would go about purchasing it or starting your trial, okay? That's the first step. The next step, you can go to your users and assign it to your users. Otherwise, those features like end-to-end encryption won't show up. So here under active users, I have a user named after myself, Shervin Shaffie, and I'm going to click on it and click on licenses and applications. Now notice as I scroll down, I've already added the Teams Premium license to this user in addition to an E5. Now from here, we're going to go back to the left-hand side and kind of minimize billing. And if you click on show all, you'll notice that the admin centers show up here on the left-hand side. So we're going to click on the Teams Admin Center. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is on the left-hand side, we're going to scroll down and there's an enhanced encryption policy. That is a global policy you want to make sure is set up for enabled. So on the global policy, we're going to click on it. And as you can see, there's two. There's one for end-to-end call encryption, which I mentioned was available about a year ago. And then there's an end-to-end meeting encryption, which is available with the premium license. Now that we have the premium license, we want to make sure that this is set up for not enabled, but users can enable versus not enabled at all. And I have the same setting on the phone call encryption as well. So we're good here. I'm going to click cancel. And notice that there's other policies as well. So if you want to completely disable end-to-end encryption, you can set this up and then you have to assign users to that policy. Let's switch gears to the Teams view. So this is Shervin Shaffie, my user that has Teams Premium assigned, and we also have encryption enabled inside the tenant. So if I simply go inside my calendar view of Teams to schedule a meeting, then you get a familiar meeting scheduling option where I can just type in test for the title and invite a few users like Alex and also Deborah to this meeting. Day and time looks good, and I'm going to click send. Now, if I go back to this meeting that I just scheduled, if I scroll to the bottom of it, you'll see the meeting options as a hyperlink. You can also click on the three dots on the right-hand side and click on options. Clicking on meeting options brings up this site. So you can see all the various meeting options, and if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can enable end-to-end encryption here. Make that go from a no to a yes. But as we discussed, creating a confidential meeting is more than just end-to-end encryption. And for that, Microsoft has created a great document called Configuring Teams Meetings with 3 Tiers of Protection. If you scroll down, the tiers are discussed here: baseline, sensitive, and highly sensitive protection. There's also another variation for highly sensitive meetings where there's presentations that have minimal interaction from attendees. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, it talks about all these different features like turning on cameras or adding watermarking for the different tiers of protection. So if we look at highly sensitive, for example, applying watermarking to everyone's video feed should be set to on. Applying watermarking to shared content should be set to on. And end-to-end encryption should be set to on as well. Now, if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see that even settings like who can bypass the lobby should really be set to only me and the co-organizers versus everyone in my organization. Now, if we go back to the meeting options, in addition to end-to-end encryption, we can take the guidance for creating those highly sensitive, or what I like to call confidential meetings. So applying watermarking to video feed, let's set that to yes. And applying watermarking to shared content, we'll flip that to yes as well. Now notice that who can record is now grayed out because you can't record an end-to-end encrypted meeting. Now if we scroll back up to the top, this who can bypass the lobby setting, we'll take that from everyone to just me and the co-organizers. Now this now becomes a much more secure meeting. But you can't really expect every end user to know about all these different meeting options and set it up exactly so that they have the perfect confidential meeting. It's too many different options. That's why you need meeting templates. Something an admin can set up and create a confidential template so that end users can just select it and they know every single time that they've selected exactly the right options. I'll show you how to set that up right now. Back in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, on the left-hand side, I'm going to scroll down to Meetings and find Meeting Templates. Click on that, and you can see that this, again, is a premium feature. It lets you know that you need the premium license. Now, if I look here, I already have one template that's just kind of pre-populated virtual appointments. I'm going to click Add to create that confidential one. Here, the first thing I'm going to do is give it a name. And so we've been talking about confidential meetings. And give it a description, same thing, for your secret meetings, for your top secret meetings. Now, what you'll notice here is that there's a hide, show, lock, and unlock. And the visibility and the lock status shows up on the right-hand side. So what this means is that in addition to selecting what you want this option to default to, like for example, who can bypass the lobby, we're going to make it so that it's only the organizer and co-organizer. And what we could do is we could actually hide this so that it doesn't show up for anyone, the meeting organizer, when they're scheduling the meeting. And so it can be a hidden feature, and we'll do that and we'll see what happens when we actually schedule it as an end user perspective. People who call in by phone can bypass the lobby. We don't want them to bypass. We just want them to get stuck in the lobby, and we let them in or we don't let them in. End-to-end encryption, key, right? We want this on. Watermarking, boom, we want this on. And watermarking for video as well as screen share, we want this on. So we've put all these on. And oh, by the way, these are unlocked. So let's say we want to lock these. We click on lock here so that the meeting organizer won't be able to change the value, right? So this ends up being locked. We want to lock all of these so that it's like, hey, you got no option. Like, this is the way it's going to be. And even end-to-end encryption, we're going to lock this. So a bunch of these features are locked, and one of them actually is hidden. This will be fun for the end users. Now, on the audio side, sure, we want people to have their microphone and their cameras on. That's fine. And then on the recording, you'll see that this is set to off because it's locked by another option's default value, which is the end-to-end encryption, right? There's no way you can record these types of meetings. From a roles perspective, do we want people to be notified when they join or leave? No, we don't. And we'll leave that as visible and unlocked, so you'll see the difference there. And then from an engagement perspective, allow meeting chat. Well, it turns out that meeting chat and Q&A and reactions are actually not end-to-end encrypted. So if you want to have a super secure meeting, let's turn these off. Allow reactions is set to off, and enable Q&A is set to off. And we'll leave these unlocked, so if somebody really wants to change them, they can. So with that, we'll click Save, and now we have our confidential meeting template for your top secret meetings. Now we have to go through the process of assigning this to end users. So on the left-hand side, there's a template policy, and here there's a global org-wide one. You can add new ones, but we'll just go with this one as a default. And here you can see that the virtual appointment that was here previously, as well as this confidential meeting one that I made, are both viewable templates. We can actually hide them if we want to. So let's take this virtual one and we'll hide it. So it's a hidden template. It won't show up for anyone that's associated to this global policy. We'll click on Save. And now we can go on the left-hand side to our users and click on Manage Users. Click on myself, Shervin Shaffie, and on the right-hand side, we'll see Policies. And as I scroll down through the policies, we'll see this one for Meeting Templates, Global Policy. So this is what's been assigned by default to this end user. And so that end user should be able to see confidential meetings, because that template is part of the policy. So that's how you ensure that your end users are actually able to see these custom templates that you built for them. Switching back to the end user, looking at Teams, again, this is the end user, Shervin, that has the Teams premium license. And if we look at Teams meetings, click the drop down. In addition to scheduling meeting, we now see that confidential meeting, the template that we set up, shows up. The virtual appointment, we actually made that hidden. It still shows up, but sometimes these things take a little bit of time for them to percolate. Anyways, let's click on confidential meetings and use that template. Now, what you'll notice is right away on the right-hand side, these options show up. And it says that some of these options may be locked. If you remember, we locked them and we even hid some of them. And if you notice that there's a lock icon on some of these, like recording automatically and letting callers bypass the lobby, there is no way that I can change these. I'm clicking on them and I can't change them, which is awesome. Now, if you also remember, I turned the lobby options to hidden, so it doesn't even show up on here. Some of these other options, like the meeting chat, we set it as disabled, but the end users can change them if you want. Again, these are things that you can lock if you want to. And then all these things like watermarking for video and content and the end-to-end encryption, they're all on, and the end user, myself, can't change them, which is excellent. So if I go ahead and set up this one, confidential test meeting, and I invite Alex again, and I also invite Deborah to this meeting, and let's just leave the time as is. Let's click on more options and see what happens here. We can also see some additional options. Like for example, if we look from the bottom to the top, we've seen all these ones already. Who can record? That's grayed out because you can't record these. Some of these options you can change, like the Q&A, for example. Again, you can lock them if you want. And then who can present? You can make it so that only specific people could present, and it could be just only Alex can present. So in addition to me as the organizer, Alex is the only other person that can present. So you can fine tune these and then click save, send it, and you're good to go. So let's get to the final step of this, which is the end user experience. So I'm going to click on join and turn on my camera so you can see me again here joining the meeting. And this is that confidential test meeting that I set up. Turn off my mic and click join. Okay. Meeting is end-to-end encrypted with audio, video, and screen sharing are end-to-end encryption. Some features aren't. Okay, so you can click on learn more there. Now, give me 1 second. Let me join Alex, who's on my other computer. Okay, so you saw Alex join for a second, and you see all these different things like watermarking is being applied to the video feed. Obviously, you see my email here. This is actually my email. So if I took a screenshot of this, then people would know that I've taken a screenshot of something that I shouldn't have. Now let me get Alex to share something so that you see what the watermarking looks like with shared content. Hang on. So there you go. That's watermarking on the content and also on his video feed on the right-hand side. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. And as Alex goes through his slides here, you'll see that there's still watermarking all over his slides as well as his video feed. Now, you don't see any watermarking on my own video feed because that's a self view, but his video feed, what he sees of me and also what I see of him on the right-hand side, there is watermarking all over the place here. The other thing I want to show you is look on the left-hand side. You see this meeting has been going on for 4 minutes and 47 seconds. See this little encryption status? Click on it and boom, here is the encryption key. So this same encryption key appears on Alex's Teams meeting. And so if you really want to be super secure, you can say, hey, Alex, what's your encryption key? And he'll read it off. And it's going to be the same set of 20 digits. It's a good way to make sure that you're on the same meeting. And then notice that if you click on more and you go to settings or anywhere, there is no option to record the meeting because that's been disabled. And if you click on chat, for example, then you'll get this message that the chat is secured by Teams data encryption, but not end-to-end encryption, which we already talked about. Really cool, end-to-end encryption, super duper confidential. I want to thank you very much for joining me today. If you're interested in learning more about Microsoft Teams, check out my other videos and I'll catch you on the next one.